All right, people, welcome to the stream. Hope you had fun with Mr. Skeleton Head, the skull, the skull mask. I actually wore to the gym today, and that's why you have been had to wait for the actual stream to start because I came very straight from the gym, and since it's a Halloween theme, I decided, hey, it's trick or treat time. Why not do a little bit of a trick in the beginning? Because hey, there is no treat. Nobody's treating me. So you got the trick with the skeleton head, the skull. Obviously now fresh from the shower. Smells like I don't know, ice and shit. Not shit literally, obviously. Here it is. Today's stream. We're gonna start this one from Mallasabet Beers, Ember Trail Rauchbier, which is smoky beer. And as you can see, smoked malts and 6.8 strong. Let's start doing. Obviously, today I have more topics than what I usually have in the streams. So let's start by pouring some beer and then I will talk various topics. I'm not gonna say there are big news, but there's some news. First of all, Rauta 24,000 subscribers. And as I have promised you people, whenever we hit a new milestone, which is 1,000 more, there will be a giveaway. So this time I'm actually giving out a black metal CD from Hungary, Witcher. Good album, by the way. I already made the review video, but it's not out yet. And I will be giving this away, let's say, when I have finished my first beer of today. So it will take some time, but bear with me. As always, should you want to make sure I read your comment, tag me the same fashion as Northbound just did. So at Rauta, that will highlight the comment in the comment section, which is right here. And then I will notice it more easily. And I will obviously prioritize the ones that I highlighted. So that's the instruction for today. If you want to support Rauta with your coins and whatnot, you can do it by PayPal. You will always find that link in Rauta's videos, or you can use Google Super Chat, or you can become a Patreon member. But mind you, I'm not begging, and none of these donations are mandatory. It just helps me and my camera people to do these trips. And I have some good news for you regarding those trips in a little bit. But first, I will get the first questions right out of the system. And then I will be telling you what is the next trip, so you know what kind of interviews you're going to get. So, cheers to you, salute, keep peace, and all that stuff. So refreshing. This is just right outside this sauna building. So it's been out there in cold, but not too cold, kind of a refrigerator thing going on. So Northbound, thank you for congratulations on 24K subscribers. I promised that this giveaway would happen, but I was actually estimating that the amount 24,000 would be after the stream or during the stream, but so I could really just roll out the giveaway and say it's going to happen when we have that amount, but it actually happened yesterday, so I'm a little bit late in that. Anyway, and regarding Osmos, what people don't know maybe is that my band Nightside just, signed a deal about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago. We signed a deal with Osmos Productions for Nightside's third album. And obviously, I'm really stoked about it because Osmos was already a legendary label when I was a teenager. And that was more than 30 years ago. I mean, back in the 90s, you would have Osmos known for bands like Imbel Nazarene, Enslaved, Immortal, Marduk, and so on, so on. Absu, among others, Dark Tranquility, early days. So not just black metal, but lots of those great black metal names. So Osmos was the kind of a label you would go for if you wanted black metal. Pretty much like Earache was the label for death metal and so on. So yeah, really, really happy about this deal. And as some people might have figured out, we are already doing the album number 3. It doesn't mean we're recording any of the songs, but we have prepared songs for the new album. And we're going to play one more show for this year in Marianhamina next weekend. Actually, just pretty much like our show is going to start 10 minutes at 11 o'clock, and now it's 11 minutes past 11 on Saturday. So just a week from now, we should be on stage in Marianhamina to play the last show of the year, and then we can start focusing on writing new songs, honing the ones we already have, and all that stuff. So let's hope that we get to record the new album in 2026, hopefully the first half of it, but too early to tell about that. Now getting to the other questions, and then of course the other topics. What else? Yeah, it's Halloween. So many people are probably going to the bars, getting wasted, getting laid, and all that stuff. I'm not getting laid. I'm not gonna get wasted. I'm just haven't even had dinner. I just came from the gym, and I was supposed to, go for the rice and chicken, but then I realized it's too late because I need to start the stream. So maybe I will just have my dinner right after the stream. I won't be doing these 3 hours today, that's for sure, but maybe 2 if you're kind enough or interesting enough, whatever. Oh yeah, Guy Ignognito was already mentioning here. Guess the mystery water sound in the background. I didn't, purposefully. I didn't just mute my microphone right here because I figured it out doesn't matter. So I was really taking a shower while Mr. Skull, was staring at you. What else? And Never Mo. Did I read that right? Was celebrating Halloween in Oslo. That's good. And Vulgar has cold beer and Ferret Branca. Well, that's a combination. Hello, Maslot. Hello, Rutkanen. Hello, Bo. J Killers, everybody. What's going on, people? Now, this ain't no porter nor stout. This is Rauchbier, which is the smoky beer. Kind of, I think it's closer to porter, I think. But I think Rauchbier, it's its own style, really. Yeah, SK, I always look very happy because I'm a happy fucking fella. I don't even remember what the thumbnail looks like, but yeah, let's talk about my feet. And thank you, Kai Ignognito and Marcus. Thank you, people. Yeah, HP Dixon, I rarely wash cups. I have a washing machine, obviously, for that. So, people, I wanted to talk about some trips. So, 2 weeks from now on, I will be in Athens. I mean, unless I'm dead or something like that. And in Athens, I'm going there because my friend is organizing 2 days black metal event in Athens, Greece. And there are bands like, Hypothermia, Nocturnal Depression, Thigh Light, and so forth. So it's a small black metal event, but 2 days. And a friend of mine who I got to know in 2019 still lived in, Glasgow, Scotland, but is of Greek origin, invited me there. And, like if I would like to come, and I was like, okay, I need to just stare at the budget. Like, do I have money on Rauta's account? And I'm like, I actually do have for one person to fly there. So now I have my flights booked. I have accommodation taken care of and pretty much already few interviews. Now, obviously, I'm not just focusing on the interviews, the bands that are actually playing there, but because I'm going to Athens, we're talking about some Greek black metal. I mean, obviously, some of the bands are Greek, which are playing there, but I already got to talk to, like, agreed to do with Hypothermia slash Life Lover, among other bands, Kim. So we were supposed to have this Hypothermia Life Lover interview. In essence, from there, they're doing a special celebration gig. Then Thylight, Nocturnal Depression, so some quality black metal, but also Necromantia, which I think is one of the cornerstones anyway. Very interested to do that, especially because, I mean, already done Varathron in 2019, mind you, Zemial also in 2019, Kabir also in 2019. This was once again by this Greek friend having this gig in Scotland. So already quite a bit of early 1990s black metal band from the Greek scene, which a lot of you, I guess, know was actually doing stuff before a lot of Norwegian bands. I mean, Greek scene pretty much started in the late 80s versus so many, Norwegian bands starting in the early 90s. So having Necromantia added to this list of, Zemial and Varatron and Kavir list is very important. So now you probably know what is the fifth band I'm missing from these four out of five bands. It's obviously Rotting Christ. It seems, however, that Rotting Christ is not in the city when I'm going to the Athens. If it would happen, I would obviously love to do it. I already tried in 2022 to do a Rotting Christ interview with Sakis of the band, but there was like slight communication error or whatever. Nobody answered my emails when I was requesting that. So still not getting Rotting Christ, but obviously feels very important for me to get Necromantia to do the interview because after all they are disbanded one. So definitely cool addition to get that veteran band with an interview. And there is possibility that we have one or two more bands to do that. It seems like Divisor, if you remember that also from the early Greek scene, is likely to happen. So things are looking pretty bright in terms of interviews for this coming end of the year. I mean, usually by the time when we are to October, already pretty much all the interviews are gone and done for the year because there are not so many gigs, taking place in my home city. There are no festivals anymore. So it's pretty much like nothing is really happening in the sense of doing interviews. But it seems like these interviews in Greece is going to take place. But before that, next weekend when I'm going to travel to Hamina with my bandmates, we're actually going to warm up for Fintroll and we're going to play with Cannibal Accident. Now, Cannibal Accident is a pretty good quality death grind act from my home city featuring a few of my friends. So I decided, hey, let's do interview while we are anyway going to be in the same place. And, we get to talk, we have drinks and all. Why not do an interview? But also Fintroll, which is, in case you don't know, probably, I mean, by numbers anyway, the biggest black metal adjacent band from Finland. I mean, it's far bigger than bands like Satanic Warmaster, Beherit, or whatever you're, thinking of coming from Finnish soil and somehow related to black metal. I think Moonsorrow is the second biggest, probably. But yeah, Fintroll is very, very big in that sense. So it's going to be great if we get to do that interview as well. And this I cannot guarantee because it's not really up to me. But I have already agreed with these two bands that if they want to do giveaway with those interviews, you give away a CD for those who are actually watching the interviews. Well, we're going to do that. That's some new addition. I managed to agree with the bands. I tried to do that with Profanatica, who played here last Sunday and who I did interview with, but unfortunately, me and the band Paul Lidney both failed to remember that we were supposed to do giveaway. So unfortunately, no Profanatica giveaway was happening. But the next interview coming out indeed is that Profanatica interview, and that's supposed to come out this coming Friday, so next week. For a Patreon supporter, it's already out there. There might be some slight last minute edits. So probably the ones that the Patreon supporters will see now is not going to be 100% the same version that is rolling out, hopefully, by next Friday. So to recap, Fintroll and Cannibal Accident hopefully next weekend. Then at least 4 or 5 bands from Greece the very next one, and we are rolling them one interview per week. So pretty much taking care of the whole November and pretty much most of the December as well. So things are looking better than usual given this time of the year, the end of year, which is usually no interviews whatsoever. And those are most likely the last interviews coming in 2025 on Rauta, unless something really surprising happens in December, which I do not know at the moment. So now you know how your money is spent. And I mean, your money, the viewers, when you have to watch YouTube ads, that brings a little bit of ad revenue to Rauta's account. The Patreon supporters, of course, big time, and those who have donated Rauta some money. That money is now being invested in the next trip, meaning you get to have these interviews. I hope you are satisfied. And about early 2026, it's too early to say anything, but we have agreed some interviews. So let's hope things are looking bright already in the early 2026. All right. What else? Hello, Sons of Abyss. Good evening. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, Helsinki Metal Cruise is also next weekend, but obviously because we're playing our own gig next weekend, I cannot do any of the interviews at the cruise. I was hoping to get on the cruise, but unfortunately, our own gig is the very same weekend. So, what can I say? I was supposed to go to the cruise, but sometimes things overlap. And yeah, indeed, Helsinki Metal Cruise is basically passing by Maarianhamina stuff. And yeah, Nocturnal Depression is a solid band. And that is a good joke. Nice shirt. Yeah, nice shirt here. I was supposed to put on a shirt before this one, but nah. I got robbed. Why would I get robbed? What the fuck? Some other things I wanted to talk about. In addition to the interviews and giveaway. Yeah, this was originally meant to be an individual review, but because it's so much older issue, I figured out I'll just include it in the stream. Um, you might remember when I got to review the latest Imhotep zine a few months ago, and that led me to do interview with the Imhotep zine's boss, the editor-in-chief, Roy Christiansen, at Beyond the Gates, Bergen, last August. So we were talking about that stuff, and prior, that interview, he actually sent me some older zines. I have some other copies. Some are laying in my office here, but this one I managed to read during the summer, and it has been waiting for its turn on this table, or actually one of the speakers. And why I wanted to mention is that because I'm not going to do a review of this old zine, it's worth mentioning on the stream because it's so funny. As you can see here, we have some younger Mikkel Åkerfeldt of Opeth. You might see some bigger names on the cover like Behemoth, Cradle of Filth, Dimmu Borgir, and all that stuff. Now, why this is interesting is that this zine is actually more than 20 years old. I was actually reading this by the pool when I was traveling in Thailand, and it was funny to read all of this, old stuff. I mean, look at these guys. I'm gonna show you like the old Behemoth pictures. You see Nurgle and the likes. They're so young, and come on, you know, you don't see these kind of promo pictures anymore from those old black metal bands. And all these stories, including with, Cradle of Filth. This is the old promotional picture material once again. What you have here, Danny Field looking grim and all. Or these Old Dimmu Borgir stuff too. Look at these guys, so much younger. Galder here, Shakrath, the old lineup, which was, back in the days. Why this is such a nostalgic read is not because I read it back in the days. I didn't, but because it's so funny. How things were different. Here is like Solefald, uh, by the way, and things have not changed that much, really. I mean, already in this issue, which I think was 2003 or something like that, Dimo Burger was having big dreams already. And, a lot of these things where like Opeth was already a big thing. They were talking about touring in, United States and all that shit. Look at these guys. They look like a bunch of hipsters here already back in the days. Um, Especially like, hey, we're hippies from the Sandies. So what I'm saying here is like it's so funny how little things have changed. Or look at this old Catatonia picture. They were also pretty big already back in the days. I don't know if they have really grown a lot since these days, but it's funny because this was like 20 years ago, and a lot of these things could have been from today. I mean, obviously nobody's talking about streaming, nobody's talking about YouTube's, nobody's talking about Spotify, AI, or any of that modern stuff. But a lot of these things, especially with the bigger bands like Cradle of Field, Dimmu Borgir, Behemoth, Catatonia, now they are already quite much in the way to success, and it's ironic how little things have changed. I mean, basically, Nurgle is very level-headed. For instance, for just an example here about his music, he's already like understanding like they are becoming a big name, but it's not like he's very delusional or anything like that when he's talking about music and success, or how this success will change them. They're talking about touring, the budgets, and how music industry is doing this and that. So while a lot of things obviously have changed past 20 plus years, these guys are still pretty much, I think, level-headed. They are not speaking as if there were some kind of a rock stars. I'm talking about all these bigger bands here. So it's kind of a funny how little they have really changed, given that they were already big. And going all these stories, more than 20 years ago, feels kind of a funny because you realize as a reader that a lot of things have changed. But when you read these interviews, a lot of the what they say could have been coming, from this year or last year, whatever. So what I'm saying here is it's very fun to read old zines like this. Imhotep is a quality one, so it's a good example to talk about well-written interviews, well-conducted ones, and it's kind of like peeking through a window into the history in a way. And I'm obviously thankful to Roy for sending me some of these stuff because it's so cool to just kind of witness these stuffs. I mean, I remember when I saw Catatonia. This must have been around 2005 or so, and it was quite boring of a band live because they had already changed to this more like emo core, like my emo hair is falling all of my eyes and the shit. And they were not really anymore the band I loved, with the first album and especially Brave Murder Day. And at the same time, Demo Burger around 2003, I mean, Enthroned Darkness Triumphant was long gone and they had been growing bigger and bigger. Cradle of Filth was obviously a household name and all that stuff. But what is also interesting that given that Imhotep was already a known name back in the days, if you look at this list of bands here, I mean, you can see it's just not black metal. You might be scrolling down the list and say, okay, Aberum black metal, Behemoth, Cradle of Filth, Dimmu Borgir, all black metal, and then there's band like Camelot. Okay, Madden Mordem is probably here because it's Norwegian and Imhotep is Norwegian scene, but bands like Camelot and Sulefald are like, why are they here? They're not, part of the stuff here. Secrets of the Moon is a good, or was a good black metal band, and now doesn't even exist anymore, hasn't been active for so many years. So in a way, this is also kind of like a piece of its time with all the talks and whatever. So pretty interesting read, especially if you want to know how things were back in the days. I think this is very eye-opening, especially for the younger audience who might think a lot of bands have changed, or how they are more arrogant, how they're more rock star, whatever these days. But really, not that many things have changed. So, in my opinion, it's cool to read the old ones. I have one other Imhotep scene there, and probably will feature their later stream. So yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I strongly recommend, in case you people want to read about the past in your metal scene, whether it's black metal, death metal, whatever. Get get those zines and read a little bit the past. It is interesting. Okay, getting back to your comments before I move on with the next topic. As this time it's, I guess, a special stream. Usually I'm just like questions and answers and drinking beer, but this time I have these interviews. Let's talk about this zine. Let's talk about giveaway and one more thing, which I will soon show to you. But I will actually read your comments and answer along the way. Um, Sadistic Vitamin is asking, do you have winter tires now? I don't, but I have AWD. Bad excuse. Well, I actually have winter tires already set because I never replaced them in the spring. My four-wheel drive car could probably manage with summer tires, but I decided that like I'm gonna just not change them in the spring because I was gonna travel quite a bit. So I figured out why not to just use the same tires already, and let's change the tires next spring. Um, Bruno's pictures is like those old emo that photos remind me of early 2000s mayhem photos. Yes, very much. That's exactly how things were. A lot of bands, black metal bands, looked more gothic back in the early 2000s and all that stuff. So this Nurgle stuff, having this kind of a fishnet shirt or whatever, it wasn't exceptional. A lot of bands kind of went like, let's go cyberpunk, let's go gothic. So back in the days, the outfits were not that dramatic in the sense like let's wear capes and robes and lots of shit. But the gothic cyberpunk thing was really happening early 2000s. And like mentioned, Opeth is not so dramatic. Yeah, they were more like, hey, let's look like some hippies from the 70s. Jay Killers is asking, do I like classical and neoclassical music? Well, I guess I'm only for selected songs when it comes to classical and neoclassical music. I do, however, like soundtrack music, which I have presented already in my episodes of my record collection. Hello, Lex Beltram. Welcome to the stream. And yeah, what Bruno's is mentioning here, those old magazines cannot be edited. They're the real time capsule. Yeah, that's I agree. It feels like so stupid. Sometimes bands contact me like, can you remove the interview we did, or can you edit this or that piece out of the interview? And I mean, I can. Most likely, I won't. But with videos and text on the internet, you can just edit it later on. But what is printed is printed. It's almost like an album filled with typos or sketchy comments. So they are very much the testimony of its given time. Um, Northbound mentioning a couple of months to go of the year. Indeed. How does it look? Is it going to be hard to choose album of the year this time? It will be very hard because this year has been a letdown for me personally. So far, this year hasn't presented any of the real good albums. I don't know why, but it seems like whatever I have been reviewing, a lot of that stuff is just decent, not good or great. So my list so far in the year, I mean, we're already in November, hasn't looked this empty. I don't have 10 names yet on the list. And I'm like, there's only like 2 months to go. I don't have many albums in my pile. I know some new ones are arriving, including like Clandestine Blaze and White Rune and stuff like that. But I don't think it's gonna do enough. So maybe in December actually have to listen to some of the albums on Spotify or other streams to check out what I have missed, like New Testament or um, what others there were new, not new creator, but some new albums came, and I'm like, I probably have to listen to them in case I'm missing. I know I got Paradise Lost. The label was supposed to send me Paradise Lost in a physical copy, and never came. But I guess I will just re-listen to it on stream once again, once or twice, because I know it's a good album and it's not on my list just yet. But I mean, with this top 10 list, what I'm building here, most likely it will be very, very high position in that list because I think that's a good album. But so many albums that haven't arrived here. I think labels are really cutting down the physical promos. And that's another topic what I also want to talk about. It seems there will be less reviews, at least in traditional Rauta sense, for 2026. My review pile hasn't been this small since I started this whole channel in 2017, which doesn't mean I will be doing less videos. It's just the focus will be a little bit different. I will be probably doing more whole discography runs, retrospectives and all that stuff. I would be probably doing more classic reviews instead of new ones, because if there are new ones not coming physical format, I mean, then it's more time for me to listen to some good stuff and also do those retrospective ones. But so far, no fear of running out of review albums. I still have about 40 to go, and new ones are coming. Actually, picked one a vinyl parcel just today, as you can see, from Australia. So there are new albums coming all the time, but not as much as used to. I mean, my pile of review albums peaked more than 300 a couple of years ago, and now it's down to 40. So that tells you a lot. And I've already done all the reviews I have done until like first or second week of December. So even if no albums would come out, at least here 2025 is pretty done, in terms of reviews and all that stuff. So no fear that videos are not happening. The focus will be different if less reviewable material is coming. What else? Hello, Satanic Death Machine. Welcome to the stream. Jake Lishwood is asking, what about Azazel? The new Azazel review is going to be out next week. It's actually pretty good of an album, but not as good, in my opinion, as the previous one. Matt Doom is asking, what happened, Rauta? Rauta is drinking beer right after the shower. And SK was commenting, I can think of anything that's come out this year. I really like, other than the mini album For Good release, and just listen to the new White Rune and it's good. Sadly can't order it. Yeah, White Rune one is coming here, so we'll talk about that later. SK, let me think about if I can somehow sort out the White Rune stuff, especially if you're coming to Steelfest. I know the guy from White Rune, so let's talk about in private after the stream or whatever, and let's see if I can somehow figure you that White Rune stuff. I know it's impossible to send mail to United States at the moment, given the American situation. In case you people don't know, I still have one giveaway CD which I did a few weeks ago. I still haven't been able to send it to USA, because it's impossible. Actually, SK's parcel is right here on my table, on my desk, waiting to be sent. At the moment, it's not possible. Muscle is mentioning, as far as I understand, the news about Mayhem's upcoming album doesn't particularly excite you. Well, I am so cynical about a lot of new albums. I mean, whenever the album is out, color me interested. But about news that possible album might come at some point, yeah. I mean, there are so many of that news all the time. New album popping up. New album might be coming out. blah blah blah. When it's out, I'm interested, but before that, doesn't mean so much. Earn Demon Steel, the best for me so far, mentions Northbound. I felt it's like a disappointment. The vocals were not good, but the album in general is quite okay. But yeah, it's not a great album in my opinion. Matt Doom, what is UFO black metal? I mean, if you would ask me UFO death metal, I would say hypocrisy, fucking great. But UFO black metal, what the fuck is that? Yeah, the new War Moon Lord never came to review. I think I listened to it once, and it's pretty solid, but it didn't make me super excited so far. Matt Doom is asking what's my opinion on supposed North Korean black metal. Well, unless I hear it, I won't have an opinion about it. Sadistic Venom is asking what happened to the physical scene. What's so different this year? Now, I think a lot of labels are cutting down physical copies. First of all, it costs. People check out reviews less and less. That's pretty evident on Rauta too. I mean, the channel grows, but the views per review, they really are not climbing. I mean, there are always some exceptions. Is, for example, if there is an interesting title of the video, or if an album in some newsletter, blog site, review site, newspaper, whatever, gets high scoring. But I think one of the reasons is that there are so many albums coming out all the time. So a lot of bands are just drowned in that massive pile of gray shit. And by gray shit, I don't mean it's literally like bad, but it's more like there's just this huge amount of stuff coming out all the time. Just look at the Metal Archive site. I cannot, share the screen, but um, I will just, go to the main site, which you can verify for yourself. Like for example, if you will go to Metal Archive site and go to the right side of the screen on your computer and see latest additions, not that, no, sorry, upcoming albums. So at the moment I'm staring about albums that are coming out. I can actually give you this link in case you want to verify it by yourself. Check out that link I just put on the chat, and you check out these upcoming albums. For some reason it froze. Okay, I'm staring at November 1st releases. Um and just for today, the amount mind you, it's Saturday, and I'm counting these are just metal releases, mind you. I'm like, one, two, okay, let me count. 37 albums. If I miscounted one by one or two, let that slide in. 37 albums just today. Who the hell has time to listen to 37 albums, let alone review them with multiple listens? Mind you, you only have 24 hours. And of course, you have to sleep and, take time for something else. But so let's assume you had 16 hours of time to just listen to music and not do much else. You would be probably able to listen to all the 37 albums. Could you write reviews out of them? No. I mean, unless you really did by one listen only, which in my opinion is not enough for a review. So you would be like, fuck, 37 albums. You could probably, pick maybe two, three, four. I usually do two reviews per day. That is during my 8 hours at job, because I give a few spins for each album, three at minimum, usually a little bit more than that. But let's stick to the very number three for about 45 minutes. Even if you listen to back, making notes all the fucking time, that's roughly 2 hours, right? Maybe more. And probably more if you're like writing that down. So let's assume that for 45 minutes of an album, you gave 3 spins and then you start doing the review. That takes at least 3 hours, right? So maybe the next album is another 45er. But you also need to take breaks. You go for toilet, you go for lunch, you actually have to do some work and all that stuff. So within 8 hours, you probably have time for 3 reviews. That is assuming that no review takes more than 3 hours with those 3 spins and writing it down. I mean, even 3 hours per album is kind of more than enough because if you do an 8 hour shift, you don't have 3 hours per album. But maybe some of them is like mini CD, 25 minutes maybe. So if you go for like 4 spins of the 25 minutes thing, it's still about 2 hours. So 3 plus 3 plus 2, 8. So 3 album reviews per day, that's really, possible. But 37, gotta be kidding me. And mind you, that is just one day. Now, if you look at the November 2nd, which just happens to be Sunday, on Metal Archives, it's only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Almost doable. Then on Monday, you have only one album per, November 3rd. So you're basically like, do something out of the November 1st. But then there is 4th, another 2 album, 5th, 1 album, November 6th, 4 albums. No, sorry, 3. November 7, and suddenly you are like, no. Okay, I started counting at 50. So November 7, you have like 50 albums. So within from 1st of November to November 7th, you have this first site lists only 100 albums of coming 411 entries. So within a week, you have 100 albums. If I go for page 2, um, it still goes on with the November 7 for at least 12 more. So if I counted right, it's something like 62 or so for November 7th. And then a few more for November 8th. So if you go from November 1st to November 8th, that's 7 days, right? Or 8 days. So you have something like 112 or whatever. I mean, who the hell has time for all that stuff? I mean, really, realistically, even if you would go like just one listen and write the review while you're listening to it, nobody would still have time to do those 50 reviews per day. No one would fucking read all the 50 reviews per day. So even if you put your, I don't know, AI to, do the work for you while listening, you just write down lines like, okay, horrible screamy vocals, great killer tune, fast blasting. AI, create me a review out of these black metal albums with lines like great vocals, horrible mixing, great snare sound, horrible keyboards, awesome female bass player. Do a fucking review. And then you would, give it a score and put it out. Still, it would be fucking impossible. So, to answer your question, why labels have been cutting the amount for physical review copies, I can only think there's so much competition. You're not gonna stand out just by sending a review copy. You have to know the reviewer most likely, or send a personalized message or something. Get that reviewer interested. I don't know. There are multiple reasons what might be going through, but I think the main thing is the labels are saving money. So send less, save money, but that also means there will be less reviews. But that's how it goes. You let promote less, you get reviews less, and so it on goes on and on and on. Okay, my first beer is going down soon, so giveaway time. But first, some answers to you people because I was going on so long about this review stuff. Um, Certainly, Death Machine was asking, how did you discover metal and get into it? Now, I don't remember the exact year for sure, but it was probably 1982. And there was this girl in the nearby, the same neighborhood. This was like four few buildings, row houses in my area, and I was probably 7 years old. And this girl who was maybe 2 years older than me, I think via her big brother or something like that, she had gotten into metal. And I remember the first metal thing I heard was Iron Maiden. And this was roughly 82 because I think I was 7 years old. I was born in 1975, so I'm 50 now. So in 1982, I was probably either 7 years old of age, might have been six, but then again, I could have also this could have been 83. But somehow I remember I was seven, so I'm not really sure, but doesn't matter. So Iron Maiden was the first thing I heard, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. This sounds good. So I was like, not listening to children's music, like you would have it later on tapes and CDs or whatever. So also one another thing was important. Local music shows, music programs. I mean, were showing metal music and hard rock on TV, national TV. So me and my friends, we would see music videos by Kiss, Twisted Sister, Wasp, Motley Crue, stuff like that. The very early stuff, and we would be blown away. Wow, I remember how Kiss made some really rough, videos. There would be nudity or, kind of a nudity. They would have badass, instruments. They would look dangerous with their, you know, gears, aesthetics, clothing, whatever. Same goes for Twisted Sister, Wasp especially. That was so fucking hard. So that's pretty much how I, figured out metal music as a kid via television, and then it started really rolling out. We would have pins already. I think we were something like 10 years old. I would have like Wasp buttons, these small pins, you know, things like this. You would just put these badges on your like fucking jacket and you would be cool. So that's pretty much of it. That's how it started. Then you would eventually, find heavier and more aggressive, more brutal bands. So whatever started with these kind of a hard rock or early metal bands became something, bigger over the years, of course. And as always, people, try to tag me when you have a question for me, because obviously you're sometimes just commenting something to one of the other people, so I don't have to read everything here. I'm focusing on the questions which have me tagged. So in case you're wondering why I'm not answering your questions in chronological order, that is because I prefer to go with the highlighted ones, which are have my name here. Jay Killers is asking, do you like Vindir? And what is your favorite album by? My minds aren't torn. I actually made a video about Vindir in my Norwegian black metal series from the 90s. Vindir has always been kind of a too melodic for me. I mean, they have pretty decent albums, but never clicked me too much. So I don't know if I have a favorite Vindir album. I think it's pretty solid 7 out of 10 bands throughout the stuff. So yeah, not my thing really. Too melodic, but I mean, still pretty decent band. Um, Sadistic Vanderman was saying, like, can you really do a review by one listening only? No, Sadistic Vanderman. In my opinion, you cannot review on one listening only. Hence, we have had this rule since 2002 when I started at Imperiumi, like three listens minimum. Even if it's full shit, three listens are are needed, required for review. So that's what I'm saying. I never do reviews out of like one or two listens. It's always three minimum. But for shorter ones like EPs, demos, sometimes I listen like 10 times, rarely more than 10 times, but usually go between 3 and 5. Depends how complicated the album is. Like last week, this week, I reviewed one of the progressive rock albums. By three spins, I was already like pretty much figured out what I'm gonna say about it, write about it, but I still gave it a couple of more listens, so 5 times. Those last 2 times didn't really change anything after 2 listens, so there's that. Then the non highlighted questions. Matt Doom is like, where do you know your music? Where do you do your music listening? Here in my home office. I mean, I have my vinyl player right here, the CD player underneath. I have these 5 speakers, on the left, on the right, in the middle. I have these secondary speakers here. So technically speaking, how I should be listening to music all the time while doing reviews is exactly staring at the TV, because this is how the surround system works. Right and left speakers, central speakers, and two behind. But when I'm actually listening to music at home, I'm pretty much more towards these um, speakers behind me. But I mean, I'm not static here, so I can just like move and listen to music, making notes all the time. This is where I do my review. This is actually my work computer where I also edit Rauta stuff in addition to my day job. This is where I write my reviews. I still do written reviews, and that's also where I do my video content. Uh, but I also listen to music at the gym while driving. But that's usually for the other Rauta videos, like retrospective stuff and all that stuff, or when I'm preparing for interviews, like when I did this Pro Fanatica interview last weekend. I was mostly listening to Pro Fanatica at the gym while driving. So at home, I focus on the review stuff, which is sent to me as CDs and vinyl. That's why I have the physical setting here. But while I'm driving, I pretty much just listen to whatever is on Spotify and stuff like that. Agent Robocock is not too late for the stream. The stream has been going about 57 minutes, including the late start. I was taking a shower for the first 5 minutes, so you're pretty much like 50 minutes late, but doesn't matter. It's not like I'm quitting already. Um, Jake Killers is mentioning what music format is the best. Is it CD, vinyl, digital, or some else? I personally prefer CD for the how easy it is. But then again, look at vinyls. I just happen to have one vinyl here, and then I also have obviously CDs here. So if I'm about to talk about, say, album covers, which one looks better? Vinyl, big and all, or CD? Or how about digital? How are you going to read the lyrics when there are no lyrics when you have like Spotify? So whether I'm all about like checking through the liner notes, staring at the cover graphics or whatever, figuring out the details, like this motherfucker has 6 different eyes. If this was on Spotify, a tiny image here, I wouldn't figure out this actually has 6 eyes. I was, oh, it's two eyes beast. You know what I'm after. So it depends on the context. When I'm driving, when I'm, at the gym, obviously I just put my headphones, which are somewhere here. I put my headphones on. Obviously, I don't have a CD or vinyl player if I go to the gym or if I drive my car. Then digital is the best. But as a someone who is more into music than just the music, I mean, I love physical products. That's why I have CDs. I have the vinyl here. Um, so I prefer the special packaging, and then it doesn't matter whether it's CD or vinyl. Vinyl looks the best, but to be honest, going for 7 inch, just change sides every 5 minutes or so, it gets a little kind of like, I think, the sweet spot. You have the physical format, but it's still easier than the vinyl. If I was a collector, I would probably go for vinyl mostly, but since I'm not, I think CD is good enough for me. But physical it is, because of the liner notes, because of the lyrics, because of its cover, because it's something tangible. With the digital, the thing here is you might see some album today on Bandcamp, on Spotify, on fucking Apple Music or whatever, and the next day it could be just deleted. Now with physical format, you don't have the problem. You're like, okay, hold this member discography gone, like it was for a few years. People were like, what happened to this member? Why it's not on the streaming service anymore? How I'm supposed to listen to this member? Meanwhile, we people with the physical ones, we're like, okay, I don't actually have many dismember ones, but what my point here is, we're like, yeah, so you don't have the access to the music because it's not digital. Too bad for you. Like, I have actually quite a few dark ambient albums which are not available on streaming service. So I'm not really depending on the stuff to be on digital platforms. So physical it is. That's why I want to make sure that I have the good albums on physical. The ones that are just okay, I don't mind if they're gone from the digital platform. If some album that is not great is gone from the digital platform, I'm like, okay, moving on, I can live without it, because if I can't, I need to have it. That's how I say. Northbound was mentioning, how do you see, does the amount of albums and trying to stand out go hand in hand with gimmicky bastards, Bastard du Roy and B black metal, for example, recently? Well, to a certain degree, albums that stand out stylistically, aesthetically, thematically, yeah, it does matter. So if you're this average band, typical black and white cover with some typical, basic theme as the cover image, boring album name, you're like, yeah, why should I give a fuck? Especially when you have this massive list of albums on the streaming platforms versus, hey, this is something interesting. I mean, it's pretty obvious. When you have an interesting title for the album, you have a good looking cover image, and there's something, that speaks to you, like, oh, I don't know what it is, but I fucking love this cover, then you're gonna check it out. It's almost like browsing those Tinder profiles. They're like, decent, decent, okay, ugly, whatever. Hey, holy shit, this looks fucking good. You start reading, or you're like, okay, I'm gonna check it out, and you wipe right. Or think like beer cans. If you see beer cans, okay, Ember Trail. I like the colors. Ember Trail. It speaks to me like. But if this was like a boring lager, I don't have time for boring lagers. But if this is a beer, hey, that's gonna make you sexy and smart and taste good. Yeah, I'm gonna buy a 6 pack of them. You get the idea. So of course, names matter, covers matter, the feeling matters, your intuition matters. So if you see something interesting, maybe it's a fucking spider web on the cover, and thinking like, I don't even like spiders, but if there's a spider web on the cover and a skull, I'm gonna buy it. Actually, a few years ago, I read this story. I don't remember where, but some label mentioned that in Germany, if you have a skull on a metal album cover, it's gonna sell like 30% more than the albums without the skull. So that should give you a little bit of idea what works and what doesn't. All right, getting back to the comments without tags, let's go. And Matt Doom was mentioning he's drinking wine. Fuck you, Matt. I'm not drinking wine. Matt Doom is also asking, what do I think of Ark's new project, Hyperborea Rising? Well, I heard it's AI stuff. I have video in the making about it. I'll comment it when I have actually heard it. Agent Robocop was mentioning I collect movies OSTs or original soundtracks, and indie retro video games OST in tape and vinyl format. Anyone here to do the same? And are you cherry into that stuff? Well, I don't collect really anything, but I do have music and video game soundtracks or TV series soundtracks on CD. So yeah, but I don't really collect anything than other than experience in my life. Okay, what else? Agent Robocop pretty much summed up about the format thing. Digital for archiving, tape or vinyl for the aesthetic. I don't like tapes for aesthetic. The covers on tapes look bad. CD when you short of place. I'm very, very much in that stuff. So, like JJL mentioned, several formats. And yeah, Agent Robocop, I agree that Bâtard du Reuil is not black metal for gimmick. I think their style is pretty basic when it comes to French black metal. SK is asking Jerry, any ideas on the album cover art for New Nightside? Too early to mention the New Nightside album in terms of cover. We don't know yet. And Nevermore, yeah, life is too short for boring shite. Yeah, Matt Doom, I figured out people would understand Tinder points, even if they have never used it. I have for sure. Yes, yeah, Agent Robocop generic black metal is plague, but then again, everything generic is kind of a boring. Generic horror movie. Who needs that? Generic action movie. Tell me that again. Generic power metal, generic death metal. Like what the fuck? I mean, generic booze is good when you want to get drunk, but generic in taste, for experience. What the fuck? And yeah, while skulls in metal might be boring, skulls are still, something that reminds of death, and skulls still put fear into people's minds. So I think it makes sense that. All right, Nevermore, thank you for the PayPal thing. Oh, yes, thank you. Now I see the comment about the feed on AMA thing. Someone just bought Annihilators stuff. I got this Bandcamp notification. Pretty sweet. And thank you, Matt, for your donation. Thank you so much for your donation. This is very, 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 very cool. And thank you, Tapani. You know who you are. Thank you so much for your donation to PayPal donations here. So thank you guys. This money will be put into future trips. At the moment, I think it's worth mentioning we are building budget for Inferno 2026. Let's talk about that in a bit. But yeah, I will need to finish my beer, get a new one, and do the giveaway. But now I'm gonna mention it here. Like do these triple dots or lines, but not dots. After this one, I will not answer the questions until I have done the giveaway. Lucas is asking, have you heard the new Coroner LP? No, I have not. Only digital available, but I will probably figure it out by the end of the year. Um, what is this manufactured band Dogma? What's the story with that one? Um, Yeah, Mark has a TikTok. What the fuck, man? Um, Lord Ashrock mentioned for me, black metal finally died on the 20th of October this year. Why that particular date? What's the story with the 20th of October, Lord Ashrock? Soitu Kulkuet, that's a pretty interesting name for a band. Thank you, Sadistic Vitamin, and that's really, really much appreciated. Alex Rose, hey, nice to have you here. Haven't seen you out for a while. All right, guys, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put some underpanties on, because I am actually here fully nude, with the exception of my towel around my waist. So I'm not gonna show you, nudity obviously here. That would be too much for you people, but I'm just gonna put out some panties because I really, really need to get some beer. So let's put the towel right there. And let's finally put some clothes on. It's time for a giveaway. Classic Finn. Yeah, I mean, Classic Finn would be doing the stream in sauna. I mean, not literally, because sauna would be too much steam. Wouldn't see shit. All right, pants on, t-shirt on. I probably have socks. Who needs socks anyway? Well, I kind of prefer. There was actually one thing I wanted to talk to you about on this stream, but first I'll take a piss break and wash my glass and take this towel with me. By the way, this is a classic towel in case you want to know. Let's put it the right way. I mean, inverted crosses, motherfuckers. So, a towel I actually bought from Wacken Open Air maybe about 20 years ago. I don't remember the exact year, but must have been around 2004, 2005. And I still use this at the gym because of the fucking inverted crosses and because it's some fucking metal. Not the best towel out there, but good stuff. And now I will try to find my socks, get a new beer, take a piss. I suggest you to do the same because after the piss break, I will get a new beer and I will do the giveaway. So be right back, maybe 2 minutes. Just trying to find the socks. Got him. And now finally the glass. All right, people. Let's get back to the game here. It's time for a giveaway. That is as soon as I have my socks worn. You know, it's getting cold outside, so obviously I don't want to catch a flu or shit like that after the fucking gym and shit. And by the way, thank you JJL for your donation. Will be very very much appreciated. Yes, and Yoth Iria is actually one of my favorite Greek bands. I just totally fucking love the band. Okay, now I need to send a message to my friend about the beers I'm having because it was through his help I got these beers. Hold on. All right. The next beer is Sahti Val Blonde Sahti. Blonde meaning vaalea or pale could be also used. Sahti is a very traditional Finnish kind of a beer. And here it is: barley, oats, wet, juniper, and 7.4, sorry, 7.5 strong. And here it is. What's the description? Mallasipet Sahtivaale honors the heritage of Finnish Sahti. This deep golden Sahti infused with juniper is brewed with oats and wheat, creating a rich, full-bodied profile. Traditional fermentation gives banana-like flavors with malted depth and smooth, uncarbonated mouthfeel. So Sahti is the kind of a traditional beer type coming from Finland. So, oh shit. This is kind of a weird kind of a beer in a way, not exactly very typical in Finnish beers. Look at this golden drink. That's what we're having. Actually, a few years ago at Steelfest, there was this special day where they had sahti for drinks, those who had the special bacchanal ticket. So it was pretty similar than this one. All right. Now let's do the giveaway without further ado. Now I just need to figure out what would be the next proper question. Um, I'm thinking, really. Uh, what should we ask? Do you have a question in your mind? Yeah, this is pretty good. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Um, bread for Finns, indeed. Um, so what should we ask for this giveaway? Meanwhile, Agent Robocock, thanks, Bally. Your language really fascinates me. Two of my six cats have Finnish names, Lumi and Healy. Oh, that's pretty cool. Good names. And Matt Doom has also visited Finland back in 2012. Very nice. Greg Saunders is asking, anyone here like Slayer's Divine Intervention album? I fucking love that album. It's a great one. Their most death metallic album. Lord Ashrak, first live show in about 6 years, and what was most important for people was to film the shit for their social media. Oh yeah, that kind of sucks. Yeah, camping with Ruffles is mentioning, I'm jealous their toilet sounds like it's got a hell of a powerful flush. That's because this sauna building originally didn't have normal sewer system. I mean, this toilet was installed a lot later on, so there's this kind of a motor that needs to flush it. So yeah, sadistic vanimony. I gotta say, I have only tasted like a couple of softies, so I never had homemade softie. Oh, never more. I'm more than accept your beers from your hometown. What is your hometown? I don't know where you're from. Greg Saunders is asking, do you have Molson Canadian beer from in Finland? I don't think I ever saw it. Yeah, SK, the liquor is, fucking love it. And yeah, this banana flavored thing. I mean, you can really get that feeling. This is kind of a little bit like fermented fruits in a way, like this more kind of a sweeter bananas. You know, the bananas that have already turned a little bit dark. So don't take that banana flavor like it sounds, tastes like full banana, but like it's used in description, much like sometimes whiskeys have it, um, a little bit banana. Marcus is saying, ask something I know. Ha ha ha. That was a great idea. And JJL is asking, what's my favorite Greek band? You like green bananas. SK, okay, we're not friends anymore. Green bananas is almost like pineapple on a fucking pizza. You don't do that. No, obviously I'm joking, but it sounds very weird fetish, in my opinion. Okay. I get it. Um, I need to ask something that everybody is able to answer, but I don't want to give it too easily. Okay, okay. Um, let's ask something about The Witcher. You need to have this time two answers correct, so I'm not making it too easy. Now, Witcher is a band from Hungary. That is your first tip, obviously, and they do black metal. What? When was the band founded, and how many band members do they have? When was the band founded, and how many members do they have? Go. First one to get two answers right. Both needs to be correct. Wins the CD, but not able to send it to United States. So if the winner is coming from United States, you have to wait for. But let's go. You have the time. Use your googling skills or scene knowledge. I know the answer right away because I've been reviewing that stuff, for years. And the style is atmospheric black metal, mind you. And there we have JJL 2010 two members. That was too easy. All right, JJL. Send me your address and I will mail you this beauty. Um, I can even include you the pin I got with this CD. And this CD is one of the pre-ordered copies, I guess, because it has these two stickers. I noticed the band has some information out in their social media. The first 150 copies comes with these two stickers, this pin, and a keychain. But I'll use this keychain myself. I got two copies, but only one pin and one keychain. So I promised the band that I will, you know, actually do the giveaway with the second CD. The guy Roland, who is the boss of the band, always very nice and polite towards Rauta. So like I'm gonna use your other CD for giveaway if you want to put it. So here it is. Now it's mentioned here, taped to the fucking CD. Yeah, JJL, you were the winner. Obviously, you deserve it. It's pretty good of an album, I think. Maybe the best Witcher so far. And SK saying pineapple and anchovies on pizza is the best. Oh, that's gonna be something weird American thing. Agent Robocock was asking, "Do you think there is a bridge between folk metal and black metal?" Most definitely, there is. I mean, already back in the early 90s, you would have bands like Isengard and Storm, among others, obviously, which would have this thing. And if you look at the nowadays French black metal scene with the melodic style and all, a lot of them have this so-called medieval sound, which is very much like taking these ideas from the 90s. I mean, taking the 90s from the black metal maybe, but like the old ages in terms of melodies and themes and whatnot. I think a lot of European bands, in particular, have this medieval thing going on. Now, if you also go for Nordic countries, I mean, we have bands like Monigarm from Sweden. We have obviously Fintroll from Finland, and like mentioned, we have Isengard and Storm you know from Norway. And then there are of course bands which are not outright folky, but definitely have this thing going on. Like there was this talk about Windir. You could probably say there is a slight thing going on, seeping through the cracks and all that into the more melodic style. I would say probably a lot of melodic ways of music kind of has influenced metal music. Um, but it's hard to say, which band goes here, band goes there, because unless they really outright admit it, it's hard to say for sure. But I'll use this Storm as an example because they have this song called Upp I fjället, which is Upp I fjället, Upp I fjället, du, 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 du. Up. Now, people probably know this song from Northern Wind album. And in Finland, we have this song which is very much from with different lyrics. It's about snowman, and this is like something like here referred as to children's song. So it's a very traditional song, but when you make it into more black metallic context, it becomes something different. So what I'm saying here is sometimes you can go for certain kind of a melodic ways and you can make it into a metal song, even a black metal song. Now obviously there are bands which have done some traditional songs into more metallic songs, even black metal versions. So it's not that like unusual. I mean, it's not common, but it is right there. So definitely, folk metal and black metal do have um, similar roots even. So like I said, they came from probably the same idea, but evolved into different direction. Opinions on avant-garde black metal. What can I say is mostly avant-garde black metal is not the type of avant-garde black metal is basically like transgender equivalent. No, I mean nothing against it, but probably not my kind of thing. I would say avant-garde black metal is pretty much like ladyboys from Thailand. Might look really good on the surface, but might be different from your expectations. Arcturus. I fucking disliked first two Arcturus albums back in the days. Nowadays I can listen to them, but I can hardly, enjoy them. The Sham Mirrors was the first Arcturus album, which I think, hey, this is actually pretty good. But I remember, you have to understand, I was like in my early 20s and I had been going through the first black metal things past few years. The Bathories, the Dark Thrones, the Emperors, the Enslaved, whatever. Um, and then someone presented to me Arcturus. I would guess around 1998, something like that. And I was like, what the fuck is this circus music? What are these clowns with funny hats and all that shit? The La Masquerade Infernale, whatever. I was like, what the fuck? I want my black metal to be, under a funeral moon, I wanted that to be Transylvanian Hunger, the Mysteristum Satanas, this Lucetar Os, Pure Holocaust, all that stuff. I wanted to be angry, kind of a nihilistic maybe, or satanic. I wanted to be evil. I wanted to be sinister. And then there I get these, chord gestures. Not exactly hipster, but I was like, what the fuck? You know, I didn't come for a costume party when I decided to go into the, black metal thing. So it was almost like, what the fuck? You want now balloons? You want fanny hats? You want something weird fucking costume show? Like, what the fuck? In hindsight, I probably felt about Arcturus in the same way as if some manga or anime from Japan would have been introduced to black metal. I was like, what the fuck is this? Seriously? You have to understand that they also come from a death metal and thrash metal background. Death metal and thrash metal guys, they would be the kind of guys who would have, camouflage. I'm talking about camouflage, army thing, panzers, tanks, assault weapons. You had to be brutal to be about extreme metal. And when there was this circus band, I was like, what the fuck? This is this is not why I decided to go into black metal. So yeah, bands like Arcturus, I was like, whoa, this is not the stuff I'm into. So even though word hipster was not used back in the days, but avant-garde was really doing that, and I was like, no way, I'm not gonna like it. I also remember that I had the same, but not that much problem with Vedbuens Ende. Vedbuens Ende was musically all this avant-garde stuff, so it would resonate with me, but it wouldn't annoy me. Whereas Arcturus was, honestly annoying me. I was like, what the fuck? And this wasn't like back in the days you would open metal archives. Oh, it's this guy from this band or that band and blah blah blah. So that didn't matter. I mean, I remember at the early on, I knew about Arcturus having, people from, Ulver or whatever. But I was like, what the fuck? It was just, for death metal guys. We were, being these death metal guys, you know, it was just too much theatrics. If I want to see Phantom of the Opera, I just go for the opera. I don't need that in my black metal. So yeah, that's pretty much of it. I might be a little bit exaggerating here, but I remember how I really almost like hated what Arcturus was doing, because I wanted black metal bands to be more about like D-side and Morbid Angel, just with a different kind of approach. I wanted them to be you know aggressive, anti-Christian, and openly all that, like Marduk. Put a big inverted cross and have it right there. And then you have this avant-garde stuff, with the gothic things going on, and like, what the fuck? All right, let's get back to more answering earlier questions. Agent Robocog is mentioning I'm sucker for atmospheric black metal. We don't know that band. Yeah, Agent Robocog, I've reviewed quite a few Witcher albums already on Rauta. I think you totally should check out Witcher, because it's a good band in the world of atmospheric black metal. So yeah, a solid band, not the greatest on earth, but doing good stuff. Um, Maybe it's SK's fault that everybody else was confused because of that pineapple and anchovies thing. Jay Killers is asking, do I like old Iskelma music, which is kind of a slogger music, like Rauli Batting Somerki, which I think Horna made a good cover, but no, Iskelma or Schlager, it's not really my cup of tea. But the Finnish melancholia is very much present. I mean, listen to something like Topi Sorsakoski and all that stuff. You really have that Finnish melancholia, that kind of a sorrow, a little bit bleak style. It's not that different from British version. I mean, talking about Paradise Lost and stuff like that. And in a way, this Finnish Schlager music is not that far away from bands like Sentenced. I'm not talking about the early death metal albums, but especially the post Amok stuff. Really, Robocock is mentioning hybrid of folk metal slash black metal is pretty common in Russia and Ukraine. Definitely, like you mentioned, Temnozor, Nocturnal Mortum, and stuff like that. But but I think it's pretty common, especially in Slavic music. And like someone mentioned in the chat, that Burzum, Burzum might not be too obvious, but I would say definitely it's right there. And yeah, JJL, I get it. It's weird to put the word hipster on these things, older things, because modern hipsters have nothing to do with it. But I would say bands like Octarus is from the era when guys in their 20s figured out they could wear a scarf, they could wear some kind of a top hat, put a little bit black makeup, makeup, nail polish, and drink wine. Sophisticated. I mean, think about Ackerkocke. They would have their fucking suits on, post before they BMWs, and they would be looking like this aristocratic British elite. I mean, obviously, they were not fucking Elon Musk's of their time in terms of money or power, but yeah, I mean, it was there. So in a way, I think a lot of black metal people wanted to be more artistic, to be taken serious. If you remember the early promotional pictures for a band like Covenant, they would have those fucking you know velvet jackets. Really, fucking, you know these velvet jackets which make you look like some kind of a gay goth guy, with eyeliners and all that stuff, and posing like, yeah, I know my value, kind of thing. Like, okay, hey, I don't mind if you're gay. I mean, too bad I'm boring straight person, but get the fuck out of my black metal territory. Whereas people like coming from Mysticum, they were somehow like more violent, and they look like, I'm gonna beat you up because I'm so much on drugs, man. And at the same time, guys from Dog Throne really look like they are chewing on the fucking funeral graveyard tombstones. I mean, look at the Ablaze in the Northern Sky or Transylvanian Hunger Under a Funeral Moon era, the covers. These guys look like undead. They had these crazy look with their corpse paints, and they were like, these guys are not to be messed with. Whereas these gothic guys, like totally different scene. So I think it's more like some people wanted to become more artistic, and some people were more like, "Hey, we're here to do underground, ugly sounding raw black metal." It was almost like dividing line. Like these guys are doing death metal, and these guys, well, they go to something like Comic Con. Panzer Division Marduk Coffee Mug. That sounds like a good thing. Yeah, I wouldn't call it abruptum avant-garde. I think it was more experimental and noisy stuff. And that spell Omega, in a way, kind of started the whole dissonant black metal thing, which in a way could be considered as third wave of black metal. But abruptum avant-garde black metal, nah. Yeah, JJL, I get that. Like you said, like not happy with their earlier thoughts. Growing up is a thing, and I get it. A lot of metalheads wanted to be taken more seriously. When this early teenage rebellion, when it was gone, and you wanted to be your 20, whatever, maybe 25s, and suddenly people wanted to make serious art rather than doing their brutal death metal or raw black metal. I mean, I get it, but that's never been my thing. For example, I like to sing clean when I'm just by myself. Sometimes when I drive a car, sometimes maybe in a shower, sometimes maybe when I fucking cook food. I just could be like, singing to myself. It could be anything from, like today I was singing Turbo Lover by Judas Priest. And if someone was to like, hey, would you like to do that with Nightside? And I was like, no, time and place for everything. It's almost like doing weird moves with your dating life. So it was like, why the fuck would I want to do that? Just because I can do something doesn't mean I should be doing it. But that's just me. Agent Robocock is mentioning here that Finnish Melancholia makes pretty good music, and I agree. And by the way, I have huge admiration for one of your fellow countrymen, Pentti Linkola, rest in peace. Well, there are actually bands that are probably inspired by Linkola. That Pentti Linkola is not that easy to digest. I mean, while at the same time he was very nihilistic, a nature-loving person, he also became kind of a like a born-again Christian in a way, and he was, in my opinion, quite delusional about things like how the world works. I mean, I could understand and respect that he wanted to protect nature. And I mean, he was known for hugging trees and all that stuff. So Pentilingolo had some good ideas, like people should be more self-sufficient, like to fish their own fish. Just go a boat and go for fishing and all that stuff. And there's like so much unnecessary electricity put into use, like advertising signs or whatever. I remember these things from school, but I think he was also kind of delusional in the sense like saying these things in an era where it was sheer impossibility. Like, I mean, he was about like, world should have more birth control. I agree. We have way too many people on planet Earth, and taking care of the nature, conserving nature, all good things. But at the same time, he was way too late to the party. I mean, his thinking is so conservative. It's almost like you people should live without the internet. And like, yeah, boomer, go fuck yourself. Like, go try to do things without the internet these days. And a lot of his things already in the 90s were like, hey man, the world has changed. You must This is just an example, not what he literally said, but it's almost like, yeah, we should be riding horses, not riding cars. And I like, man, it's 100 years too late for that. It's almost like we should be going to the theaters, not watch movies. Again, 100 years too late. Or we should be doing acoustic music only. No electricity needed. And they're like, yeah, boomer, that days are gone. And like I said, he later on turned to some Christian values, which in my opinion felt like he was a turncoat. So while Pentti Linkola does have quite a bit of appreciation in Finnish black metal scene, among others, and I know some green liberal people actually appreciate what Linkola was thinking, what he was writing. He was more on that green side, even if not liberal, maybe conservative in some matters. But I also think his ideas were, in a way, too much 1900 things. I mean, he was like literally like dozens and dozens years late with a lot of his ideas. In a way, he was product of his own time. It's basically as if someone like Vikernes from the 90s said, and black metal should never do gigs because I won't be doing gigs. Black metal should be just, being alone. Fast forward 30 years and you have a guy with something like 8 kids doing TikTok videos. That's what Pettilingula is in a nutshell, in a way. So he wasn't really, true in a way to his own words. But then again, I mean, I understand we grow and we change and all that stuff. But in my opinion, I have very, very divided takes on Pentilingula. I do agree some things and some things I don't. And I'm not going to say I do know all the things he has written about, but I do know enough to, make my own opinion about it. Yeah, SK, nowadays Dark Throne is just unfortunately like a gimmick thing to do. And yeah, Jay Killers, I think the Tähdet cover from Horna by this Schlager music artist was very good. Um, Jay Killers is mentioning and that at the chat why is Norway so bad in ice hockey but good in other winter sports like ski jumping and cross country skiing. I don't know what to really say to it. I don't know, maybe ice hockey was not just as important to Norwegians. I don't really know. Jokonson is mentioning my other hobby side vinyls is bird watching. And in that circle, Ingela is very respected for his long work for bird protection work. Yeah, Jokonson, exactly. That's part of the thing. What I really consider Lingola was, you know, doing the right stuff. And I've heard about other people in the more green side of politics. Some people really praise a lot of things what he did, so kind of really bitch about it. But like he was about like against overpopulation, but he made more kids than most people these days do. So sometimes I'm not really sure if he lived by his own values or ideas. SK, think it like that. For a lot of years, USA didn't give a shit about soccer, and I guess it's not about like American teams wouldn't have the money. It's that they didn't, think soccer was that interesting. But nowadays, if you see how United States is doing in, I don't know, some Olympic games because money invested, it's a little bit different than back in the days. Yeah, JJL, maybe you're right. Anyways, people, we're almost 2 hours in, and I feel like you know hunger is turning on me, meaning I need to feed myself with some food very soon. I think by the time I'm done with this particular Sahti beer, I'm done for tonight. I'm not gonna take the licorice beer tonight. But one thing I promised to show you, which I mentioned like among the zine, talking about Rauta trips, this is very, very important. A couple of weeks ago, I went to Mallasebat Brewery for another box of selected beer. And again, this time I got to choose the beers of my own liking. Decided to do this unboxing on stream instead of, say, normal video. So here we have 24 beers in this box. As you can probably hear from me, my panting is this actually. weighs quite of a few kilos. I need to be very careful. I'm not splitting the contents, spilling the contents on my keyboard, and along the way, spilling the beer and all that stuff. So I'm gonna show what I have here for coming months. This box of beers, mind you, there are 12 different beers. At least I think I did so. So two beers each style. I wanted to go some of my favorites, but also present some new ones. And these will be consumed in the coming stream. So people, now let's go for a little bit of unboxing here, and I'm not letting my friend who works at Mallasepet know what I'm doing, because I am always reporting to him what I'm doing. So, some of my favorite stuff from Mallasepet is this Pina Colada pastry sour. It's pineapple, coconut, milk, sugar, mixed fermentation. Mostly, it is a beer that tastes like Pina Colada. I've had quite a few of these at a local bar. Really good, but you have to be kind of prepared to have it the Pina Colada ways. It doesn't taste like a normal beer. Fest was happening in October, so a little bit late for that sense. Festbier, October Festbier. So kind of a German approach to Oktoberfest beers. Uh, this I think is one of the newer ones. Drama Queen, very much fitting the internet era of today. Oh my God, he was such a Drama Queen, candy sour, raspberry, blueberry, licorice, vanilla. I love sour beers. In case someone didn't know, this kind of a combination fucking nails it. Sounds like you know, maybe weird, but it is what it is. Then these Amber Trails. I have a couple of these. The Rauchbier I already had today. Good one. Then we have this Cloud Strider, which almost looks like a fantasy game. Napa, New England India Pale Ale. Superdelic, hazy ones. Now, this time I decided not to pick those strong stouts because, first of all, they're slow to drink and they get me just drunk. And this one I think is one of the new ones, Mootini. Mootini is a reference to a local bar where I had been many, many times, called the Cow. So Mootini is a reference to cow. Fruited sour with espresso, vanilla, passion fruit, milk, sugar, and mixed fermentations. Cow Bar is one of those bars I can recommend visiting in case you're coming to my home city. This is made for the bar, I was told. One of the good beers I have also tasted in one of my favorite bars, whiskey bar, is this vanilla pear pie pastry sour with pear, cinnamon, vanilla. Good stuff. Tastes a lot like pears. Um, this one I don't think I have had previously. It's out of line. Peat smoked wee heavy. Sounds something like, for me, who is a whiskey lover, whiskey of the peaty, smoky style. A few more to go. This I think I have never ever had before, so I'm thinking this must be one of the newer ones. Is Skyforge Colossus. If you feel getting the video game feeling out of this label, you're not the only one. Me too. This is Netipa, so New England Triple IPA, which means 10% strong. So Superdelic and Mosaic being the hops here. I'm expecting a great journey. Then a classic one from their selection is Naantalin Eeppinen IPA. Naantali is the city where this brewery is located, their home city, Naantali. So Naantalin is just, like where it's based. Eeppinen IPA, Naantali's Epic IPA, their classic New England IPA with Mosaic, Citra, Simcoe, Galaxy, supposed to be very citric. IPA, and I love it. So all these like Citra and Mosaic, Simcoe, all these hops are putting me into the world where I love to be when enjoying IPAs. And this is also, I think, one of the newer ones which I haven't tasted. Also, very video game like label, Cirrus Savant Napa. So strong, but probably nice too. And the last but not least is this Leka, which could be translated as mullet. Extra IPA with Centennial Simcoe Citra. So IPA. So as you can see, no imperial stouts this time, no lagers, because I wanted to go for my favorite beers. Now, previously I've done selection of beers which I maybe haven't tasted and which I tried to make all different. But as you can see, Malasebat is making a lot of interesting beers. Now, in this box of 24 beers, I have two of each, like mentioned, and still there's not like even half of their selection. So what I'm saying here is, doesn't matter if you like lagers, stouts, uh, India pale ales, sour beers, rauch beers, whatever. There is something really, really good for lots of different tastes. So this 24 box of a beer is supposed to keep me happy for the coming months, and because I'm not opening it today, I'm just putting it aside for coming streams, and obviously the next one will be early December. So yeah, beer unboxing. Now gonna answer your questions here before we're done with the streams, because I really need to get some food before I start gaming. Jokonson was asking, are you going to the Helsinki Metal Cruise? I could not get the tickets in time. Unfortunately, I cannot do Helsinki Metal Cruise because my own band's gig is on the very same date in Marian Hamina, warming up for Fintroll. So Jokonson, if you are interested to travel to Ahvenanmaa Marian Hamina next weekend, please join us. Fintroll will be headlining and warmed up by Nightside, Cannibal Accident, and a couple of smaller local acts. And yes, I'm really big fan of Malasebat. This, I think, is box 4, which I've gotten from the brewery, doing these streams in collaboration with them. And yeah, SK, these are really good beers. So I'm, as mentioned, if you come to Finland, if you come to my home city, I will make sure that you are getting some of these beers. And Thosis is asking, are we drunk? Unfortunately not. And yes, SK, like you mentioned, they really put a lot of effort, not only in the cans, but of course the beers themselves. And Thosis, unfortunately, I'm not into the, Kupari stuff, the cheap lagers. Yeah, JJL, pie always good. Yes, and Nandal is also home to Pekka Sito, and the biggest Nazi comedian, hypnotic person ever. And also home of Moomin Village, which I think Pekka Sito and tried to, go against. Agent Robocog is mentioning there's a microbrewery in Quebec named Pixel that makes homage to 80s and 90s pop culture. That looks like my kind of brewery. Fucking fantastic. Iron Maiden Trooper Pale Ale. Well, yeah, Iron Maiden actually has some nice beers. I've reviewed some of them too. Northbound is having Korven Kutsu Lager. Okay, sounds good. Raunchers Brothers is pretty good of a band. I gotta like them. Oh, Tosis likes Fintroll. You should be going to the Marian Hamina gig then. Hello, Drew E. Jay Killers is asking, have I ever made kilju? People who need to understand that kilju is a traditional Finnish homemade alcoholic drink, which isn't quality. Probably too yeasty, likely to make you throw up and all that stuff. Yes, we made that when we were kids. Sadistic Vitamin is asking what I'm gonna stream. I'm gonna continue my Assassin's Creed Shadows today. As soon as I'm done with the stream, I'm gonna eat some chicken and rice, in case you want to know, and then I'm gonna stream the game for maybe I don't know, less than 2 hours. I need to be in bed around 3 o'clock, and it's now 1 o'clock, so maybe some 90 minutes, give or take, because unfortunately one has to get up by 11 tomorrow. And okay, Thosis, okay, I understand you if Fintroll is not your cup of tea. Personally, not my kind of music either, but I mean, those guys are skilled and at least they do entertaining stuff, but not my favorite kind of music, you know. But good guys. Yeah, Jokonson, that's a core Finnish experience making kilju and just getting wasted and then vomiting. Yes, JJL, that's how the Finnish youth was made of. Oh, Thosis, okay, okay, okay. Now I got it. You're right. So you like Fintroll, but you were joking about Kupari. But I mean, I get it. Some people just want to drink Kupari or other similar basic lagers because it's cheap, it does its job. I mean, it's basic lager, it's not quality, but it gets you drunk and all that stuff. I'm not a fan of lager beers in general. There are some good ones, obviously, but even basic lager has its place. When you're like, I don't know, working outside on a hot summer day, or you're going for sauna, basic lager is all you need. You don't need any fancy beers. I love fancy beers. I'm a person of quality. Whether it's about music, movies, beers, whiskeys, video games, I want quality, not just bulk shit. But there is place for basic lager beers every now and then. So if I go to sauna, I don't go for fancy sour beers or IPAs. I'm totally fine with typical lager ones, or even at the fests. But when I go to bar for some proper drinks, I don't buy your typical lager beers. But about Fintroll, yeah, indeed, Tosis, if you like the band and you don't have better things to do next Saturday, come to Marian Hamina. Fintroll is headlining, and we're playing there as a warm-up band with Nightside. I think it will be a great night. And Marian Hamina is always a nice place to visit. I think there is something, nice because Marian Hamina being in the Finnish archipelago. Yeah, getting thrashed is about different drinks. Totally, totally. Agent Robocop, it's funny that you mentioned the first demo, because that's the first demo is how I became friends with Somnium Teemu, who later on joined Baratrum and other bands. We became good friends, and I remember he gave me the first Fintroll demo. I think in Suomenlinna, Helsinki, back in the days when the band was just very very early stages. And well, later on Demo unfortunately died, and the rest of history. And now Finroll is more or less organized, managed, run by my friend Henry Sorvali, also the guy behind a lot of Moon Sorrows music. He's a great guy, but he doesn't play live with Fintroll, which is a shame because I kind of wanted to sit down and drink with him next weekend, but he's not coming. But he's a really good composer. So, like you said, the blackened version of folk metal. While it's not exactly my cup of tea. I mean, gotta give those guys really do the stuff well. Agent Robocop, that's exactly Teemu, who was also in Impel Nazarene and Fintroll. Oh, Thosis, thank you. Thanks for your words about Nightside, but too bad you cannot make it. Maybe some other day. Maybe Nordic Metal Cruise with Impel Nazarene, Nightside, Swallow the Sun, so forth would be your kind of stuff. German Hells are probabilities. Never heard it. Yeah, JJL, exactly. Humpa metal. There is some uplifting thing about that kind of humpa metal thing with folk metal and all combined. Yeah, those is totally. I cannot really say too much about Nordic Metal Cruise. It's a great cruise. Always great event. I mean, the gigs are always good there, and drinking tax free booze. Enjoying Finnish Swedish seaside. That's always worth going to. And let's hope that our teenager dude Jay Killers can also join Nordic Metal Cruise. Yeah, Agent Robocop definitely Fintroll has those black metal roots, and as such, we call them black metal adjacent band. Yeah, Northbound, you just described some of my favorite ones, and Coolhead is actually my favorite brewery in Finland. But don't get me wrong, Malasebat is very much challenging them in their own game. But still, I think Coolhead is doing the best sour beers, and they have these raspberry licorice sours. They're just fantastic, really. All right, guys, we're 2 hours and more in, and I'm getting the starving Marvin things. I gotta go make my man boobs bigger. So I think we're done for tonight, guys. I'll give you the next estimated day for the next stream. Let me think. It's most likely. Oh shit! Gonna be interesting. The first weekend in December is gonna be the Saturday. I mean, it's gonna be 6th of December, the first Saturday. And the funny thing is, it's Finnish Independence Day. Now, for me, I don't care really because I mean, I like Finland and all that stuff, but I don't have anything particular, planned for Independence Day. So most likely, the December stream is gonna take place 6th of December, unless something more important comes up. The actual date will be announced later, but let's consider it about 98% sure that 6th of December will be the next stream. So, guys, give your last questions here before I go. Thank you, Rick. I will be doing my best to keep up the great work. Um, and JJL, remember to give me your address for the album. Um, and what else? Sadistic Vitamin was like, and everyone, thank you for and hells. Don't get too wasted. Thank you, Sadistic Vitamin, and feel free to join me for the after party stream after this one. I will be indeed gaming and streaming it online to continue with the chat. I just need to eat something first. So I will be back later. And yeah, Marco 616 Independence Day Rauta stream sounds decent. I mean, why not? We can have Independence beers here on the stream as well. And Agent Robocop, didn't ask a single dumb question. All good questions. So thank you for that. And my rain is eternal is asking, is it true that werewolf is a weeb? I'm too boomer to understand what a fucking weeb is. So I guess you really need to define that word for me. Um, JJL, kippis, ollaan yhteyksissä. SK, you have a good night too. Thanks for being part of the stream. And Thosis, since you ask, I usually do a stream a month. The typical calendar, how often I stream is always the first Saturday of any given month, unless I'm traveling or a festival takes place. But always the first Saturday is the of any given month is the one I go for. Um, oh, okay. You're just you recently found this channel, and glad you have enjoyed the content. Yeah, I mean the channel has been going on since 2017, so more than 8 years now. But if you know my work, you know what kind of a clown I am. So I'm not gonna post anything here. But yeah, I do once a month these normal streams. I do gaming streaming every now and then, which is as much focused on the gaming as normal questions and answers. So even if I focus on the gaming, I always reply to people's comments about metal and whatnot. People like Marco 616 already know what I'm talking about. We all always talk about metal music and scene related stuff while I'm gaming or whatever. Um, Worst question to ask a band: where do you get your ideas? Well, yeah, that's a pretty lame way to put your question out there. I agree. And yeah, as much as I know about weebs, is that people usually relate that to anime, manga, or whatever. But I mean, if someone likes Japanese animated stuff or Japanese comics, I don't know what's wrong with it. Not my thing, but I mean, why not? I mean, after all, we're supposed to go beyond your typical Western take of comics and animated series. So I don't know what would be the wrong thing to do with, liking some Asian cartoons or books or comics, whatever. So I think, yeah, that's my understanding about a weeb is that likes Japanese comics and animated series, cartoons. But about the fan base, I really don't know what kind of a fan base weebs are. So there it is. Yeah, that makes sense. Typical case of love the art, hate the fan base. I guess that's true. What's that song about? You mentioned about the Testament song, JJL. Uh, what's about it? All right. And we're going to go for rap very soon. So let me know if there's some late comments. And then I'm going to go for food. New Clandestine Blaze CD is supposed to be, by the way, arriving for review. I just got confirmed by Mikko Aspa the other day about it. Oh yeah, congratulations, Marcus. That sucks. Yeah, SK, let just contact me on Discord and let's try to sort it out. The clandestine place and white rune thing. Just remind me about it. Okay, JJL. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. All right, guys. Once again, thanks for you people donating. Matt Besnard, uh, Tapani, and Jay Laney. So thank you guys for for your support. And like I said, some new interviews should be coming out in near future. Stay tuned for the Pro Fanatica stuff that is gonna be out on Friday, and then we should have more interviews coming in later this month. Fintroll and Cannibal Accident next in line, and hopefully something from the Greek scene. All right, guys, thank you for the company here on the stream. I hope I got you entertained and whatever. And as always, should you have more questions or more ideas for the coming stream, let me know and join Rauta Discord for daily talks. And mark your calendars that December 6th should be the next stream. Now, Rauta out. I'm off to eat my dinner and should be back in about 20 minutes to do some kind of a gaming stream and all that shit. So, catch you later. Stay metal, stay strong. Good night.